What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name is Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Now, long has Avengers Secret Wars been talked about as more than just the conclusion point for the Multiverse saga, but perhaps a reboot or crossroads for Marvel Studios, where three specific things would happen. Number one, we would stop seeing cameos from characters that existed in previous Marvel Cinematic Universes before the MCU. Number two, they would provide an off-ramp for characters or actors who have been in the MCU for the first 20 years, a chance to retire by on-screen death or otherwise. And three, Marvel could finally recast some characters who have been noticeably absent for the last half decade, characters like Tony Stark's Iron Man, Steve Rogers' Captain America, and even T'Challa's Black Panther. Well, we finally have officially heard directly from Marvel Studios' top brass about this exact subject, and when asked, the answer that he gave might actually surprise you. We're going to talk about what he said, what the actual context is here, because if you read between the lines, I think it's very evident about what he implied about rebooting the MCU after Avengers Secret Wars. We're breaking it all down, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed in the last couple of months. We've been gaining subscribers again at a breakneck pace, so again, thank you very much. And if you haven't already, I would just kindly invite you to do so. If you like the content here at the channel, it's the number one thing you can do to support us as content creators. I would sincerely appreciate it. Okay, so this was a recent clip from an interview with the outlet Screen Off Script, where Brad Winderbaum, the head of Marvel Television, was asked point blank about the idea of a reboot. This is what the interviewer asked. We're about to approach Secret Wars, and even if we're just, shooting the breeze, what are your thoughts on the idea of a full MCU reboot? Is that something that's ever been considered or even discussed in passing? This is what Brad Winderbaum had to say. So, you're going to have to ask Kevin Feige about the features. I'm on the TV side, but we do navigate some of the same waters and live in the same universe. I'm a comic book fan. I've read comics since I was 12 years old. And I've seen what happens, comic companies, when things get full reboots, right? And the truth is, every time there's been a full reboot in DC or, DC particular, but I feel like it always you can't really fully reboot anything. The classics always come back around. It's like a very difficult thing to do to a living, breathing fictional universe, or to just start from scratch because of all of the fan investment in the stories that have come so far. So emphatically, there's your answer. Read between the lines. He's saying it's never worked out for comic companies whenever they've tried to do a full-on hard reboot where everything starts all over again, because it's some of these classic origins or what we've known from the characters for all these years that seem to just keep coming back around. The retcons happen, but still we revert to what we knew originally, what made the characters popular in the publishing in the first place. And so he's saying the same for Marvel Studios. They can't really do a hard reboot where they start everything all over again from scratch. Here's Iron Man 1, here's Hulk 1, everyone is recast, because we have an affinity for all the movies we've seen in the Multiverse saga, in the Infinity Saga, and we won't want to let those go, even if they're gonna recast characters like Steve Rogers. Now look, we probably should just assume that if there is a reboot of sorts, it's a soft reboot, because there are characters and franchises that have just now been introduced, you could imagine, that won't be up for recasting right after Avengers Secret Wars in 2027, namely the Fantastic Four, who are about to have their theatrical debut, their first debut in the MCU, coming in summer of 2025. They're not going to be up for recasting in May of 2027, a little less than 2 years later. Oh, nope, sorry, we're doing a hard recast in the MCU. Looks like we need to have a new Fantastic Four before they've ever had a second film. So you can assume right off the bat, for some of these characters who have movies coming up in their trilogies, like Simu Liu's Shang-Chi, for the Fantastic Four who have only had their first film in their Marvel franchise trilogy, they are sticking around after Avengers Secret Wars. I think the likelihood that the cameos from all of the previous cinematic universes may be done, but we already know that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is likely sticking around for the future of the MCU X-Men, so there are still things on the table here that I think are at play, where if you sort of make it through the door of Avengers Secret Wars and into the continuity after that, old universe or not, you're sticking around in the MCU for a while. I think it's also very likely to say that some actors who have been in the role for a decade plus, going on 20 years, say like Chris Hemsworth Thor or Doctor Strange, because let's be real, not everyone's going to survive this movie anyway, and since the Russos have gone out of their way to say that these Marvel movies are going to be radical and challenging to the audiences, I think that the chances we will see another Infinity War where everybody is killed and then brought back is not on the table. I think what's going to happen here is that radical thing they're referring to is we're going to have some deaths, some real consequences that won't easily be reversed. This isn't going to be Loki, where he'll die once, twice, and then he'll get his own series for 2 seasons on Disney Plus. And so The longer you've been in the MCU, not only is your death worth more with higher stakes to the audience, again, that radical factor, but really it's a chance for you to have an on-screen death and a farewell to your character if you're looking to leave the role. Obviously, actors like Benedict Cumberbatch and Chris Hemsworth, again, are likely candidates, but we also know there's a real chance they're making a Thor 5 and a Doctor Strange 3, and unless either of those gets squeezed into some mystery date in, say, February of 2027 before Avengers Secret Wars, both of them would presumably be back to get those films done, and so who knows who will be sticking around. But this is all to say, regardless of a hard reboot, if they have an opportunity to bring characters back into the fold like Captain America, Steve Rogers' iteration of the character, but specifically Iron Man, we need them back because we now are about to have the X-Men in the MCU, and if they go killing off the rest of the Avengers and then don't bring back the OGs or recast a Tony Stark in the MCU, then we're going to be right back where we were, with an X-Men finally in the MCU, rebooted in 2027, 2028, and beyond, but be isolated from the very same characters that we couldn't cross them over with back in the mid-2000s and the early 2010s. So this is to say Marvel has an opportunity here to make sure we got the classic characters alongside the X-Men like we have been asking for the whole time. So not only do you have a top brass here at Marvel Studios saying, no, you're never going to really hard reboot the thing that never works, but we know that a soft reboot would be much better suited for what's going on. Some of the new characters like the Fantastic Four stick around for the future. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine sticks around for the future. And then they go ahead and they recast a Steve Rogers, they recast a T'Challa, they recast a Tony Stark if they have to, they recast a Doctor Strange or recast a new Thor because those characters have died. And it'll finally be all of the Marvel characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at one time. And look, this just doesn't work X-Men to Avengers. Think about this. We won't have Reed Richards and Tony Stark interacting on any level if we don't get another Iron Man in the MCU. And that will be a real missed opportunity for a lot of reasons. Actually, for a lot of these characters to interact. Guys, let me know all your thoughts, though, down below. Who you think should be recast? Who you think is not going to make it out of Avengers Secret Wars alive? We probably should maybe do for fun a Deadpool at the channel, try to figure that out, see what the highest odds are for who's going to die. I mean, you can look directly at the Jonathan Hickman storyline, but I think Marvel's at least savvy enough, not to do that verbatim. And of course, we already know they've changed a lot of the variables, especially with Dr. Doom or Victor Von Doom looking like R616 Tony Stark. But you let me know all your thoughts down below. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. All right, guys, we are still giving away PlayStation 5s at the channel. For every Marvel drop this year, there are a ton of them. Super simple to be entered to win. Just be a sub and leave a comment. Because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. Make sure you hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And of course, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. You can find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at I'mFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name Allfires. And while I would sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.